Something I wanted to do here is we do a highlight video for our ATS YouTube page. We just talked about Houston and Pittsburgh, and that's why you should listen to the full audio version of the ATS.io radio podcast. But Brian, as we look up and down this week 3 card here, and I'm joined by Brian Blessing of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline, as we look at the week 3 card, you and I were talking about this a little bit before we started recording here. I don't necessarily see that many lines I would consider an overreaction here this week. I think the odds makers have done a very good job despite getting that handed to them last week with a lot of public winners.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a couple. I honestly, can the Rams win the game? Absolutely. I'm personally a little surprised the Bills are only 2.5. I think 3 will be the closing number. But the Rams have taken a lot of dough in the first 2 weeks, and they've rewarded their backers. But back-to-back weeks of cross-country travel. And I think people looked at that Jets score with the Bills and said, oh, the Bills beat the Jets by 10. The Bills should have scored 45 points in that game. They turned it over a couple of times in the red zone, missed 2 field goals, and the only touchdown the Jets got was an 8-yard out pass. The 2 guys banged into each other, and Crowder ran 80 yards. And then last week, see, the funny thing is, Adam, and this is what you got to be, say, don't overreact to what you last witnessed, but you've got to, just say, oh, that's what we're looking at. To me, there were 2 real gifts is a strong word, but just plays that made sense to me. And that was the Bills-Miami game, and it was a result of the Miami-New England game. The Bills-Miami game was a dead over because the Bills should have scored a lot more points than they did against the Jets, but everybody looked at Miami and said, oh, well, they didn't do anything. Well, the Bills are walking in there with their 2 middle linebackers out, Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano. Fitzpatrick's going to have a field day with underneath passes, and they're going to run the ball better than they had the week before, and the Bills should have scored more points. That game's a track meet. It goes over the total. But then the other one was, oh, Cam Newton, all they're going to do is run the ball with Cam Newton. That's all. They were like a feral cat playing with a kitten in that first game. But at some point, you're going to play Russell Wilson. You're not going to be able to keep pace with Russell Wilson only doing that. So New England had to have a lot more bullets in the chamber going out to Seattle and open it up. So, and that game went over the total. So it's like you looked at the first game, that Miami New England thing, and everybody's like, oh, play the under with these 2 teams. But it was the exact opposite.
I think when I look at the total for this one, it has gone up from 45 to 47.5, 48 here. So we do see over money in this game. And I want to know about Milano and Edmonds first.
It's an under game. I'm telling you, I really believe this. And I'm thrilled. Josh Allen, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, no INTs. But I think if Milano and Edmonds are back, Henderson got the ball a little bit, and they got the running game going. But you're talking about Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey's going to be covering Diggs. Yes, Brown and Beasley have an opportunity to do something, but I think the Bills will be hard-pressed to run the ball. Allen can make plays with his feet. But I also think the cross-country travel back-to-back weeks, this could be a Rams team that maybe is a bit fatigued in the second half. Personally, I think this is real, like kind of a zigzag thing. I go completely the underway on this and think it's an under game.
The one thing that I will say, and this impressed me last week about Buffalo, I was on the Dolphins, did get a winner with them in the Circa Sports Million to go 3-2 this week. But the thing that was interesting to me is that the Bills had a chance to get conservative in the fourth quarter. They had a chance to run the football, salt the clock away, put it on their defense. And they didn't. They kept attacking. They kept going vertical down the field with Josh Allen. And I give them a lot of credit for that. And I don't know if it necessarily has an impact on the total for this game specifically. But what it does tell me, it tells me 2 things. One, they believe in Josh Allen. They trust Josh Allen now. They will put the game in his hands and feel comfortable doing it. And 2 is that I think McDermott just in general feels more comfortable as a head coach, feels more comfortable with his personnel. Buffalo didn't cover last week. And if you just look at the result, they didn't look great against the Jets, although they did cover in that game. But to me, I think what this shows is that Buffalo's a pretty good team, and I was a skeptic. I was unsure about them, but the fact that they're playing a more aggressive brand of offensive football here leads me to believe that they believe in that side of the football, and it makes them a play-on team to me.
Oh, listen to me. I learned more about a team. I don't know if they won, they didn't cover. Okay. They were down in the fourth quarter on the road. And I'm watching the broadcast and whoever was doing color on the game, and I'm like, have you ever watched these guys play? He's going, oh, Josh Allen has, done this and this for 3 quarters. The question is, in his development, can he step up? Can he do it in the fourth quarter? In the first 3 years, the kid has, I think, 9 game-winning drives and 7 fourth-quarter comeback wins. He never shies away from the moment. Whether he gets it, and there was another one, I don't know if you remember the game a couple years ago, he single-handedly scrambled around all by his lonesome on the last play of the game against the Dolphins, threw it across his body like 60 yards, and Clay, it was underthrown by about 2 inches, and Clay, the tight end, dropped the ball on the last play of the game. I mean, this kid's remarkable. I as a Bills fan, I couldn't be happier.
So what else are you looking at here in week 3? Any other games kind of jump off the board to you?
Well, I would just say to you, Kansas City, if you like Kansas City, you're nuts. Bet them now. I mean, this number's 3.5. It's going to get to 3. Home field advantage conceivably could be on the line down the road. I mean, it's the game of the year. It's the game of the year in week 3. Kansas City and Baltimore, and these 2 guys putting on a show. I see the 3.5. I think you got, and well, what? Because Kansas City was life and death to beat the Chargers. It's a division game. It's a road game. There's familiarity when you get in a division game. So I think this number is an overreaction to the Chiefs needed overtime to beat the Chargers. And oh, by the way, I mean, this is stuff we talk about every day. You think Kansas City maybe was looking ahead the next week? I mean, this number should be Baltimore 3, get on with your day.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting game. And I think one of the big injuries, and we talked about it yesterday on the show, Tavon Young, the slot corner for Baltimore, that's a matchup that Andy Reid will probably try to exploit as much as he can. And we see that total going up here from 52 to 53.5.
Let's see. Oh, by the way, who's the slot receiver for Kansas City? Generally,
Sammy Watkins.
Actually, it's Tyreek Hill. I think if you watch their setups, I think it's Watkins is more on the outside. I think like 70% of the plays, Hill's running out of the slot. I mean, Tyreek Hill could go off here.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I mean, they have options. They could even put Edwards-Helaire in the slot if they wanted to a little bit. They'll probably move Kelsey all over the field. And that's what I love about games like that. I know it's a marquee signature Monday night game that everyone's going to bet on because it's, in that time slot. But I just love watching the chess match. I mean, these are 2 phenomenal head coaches. These are 2 brilliantly run organizations that, I mean, there's depth on both sides of the ball. Both teams are smart. Both teams have looked pretty good, at least offensively, to this point in the season. And Lamar Jackson looks like a better thrower. We know what Mahomes can do. There's so much intrigue about this game. And also, too, I mean, look, this should be the tightest line of the regular season because these are 2 very highly publicized teams. Probably not a whole lot of betting value on this game, maybe some live betting value. But still, I think that it's just such a fascinating game to watch. And then you've got the short week turnaround for week 4, so you kind of wonder about both of those teams going into that next game.
By the way, and I don't know what to make of the game yet on the short week, and I don't know what to make of Vegas still, the Raiders. But New England laying 6 to the Raiders, short week, traveling cross country. But I got news for you, and I say this all the time. Playing Monday night and calling that the short week for the Raiders to fly east, playing Sunday night and being in Seattle for the Patriots, that's worse than what the Raiders are going to do. That flight from Seattle back east is brutal. But this is a big one. I mean, can you imagine the Patriots? I watch these games, Adam. This sport drives me insane. I'm watching the game, and I started to tweet it out in the third quarter last night. I said, why bother? And then 2 minutes later, the other team did it. So I tweeted out in the middle of the third quarter, what are these two teams doing? Will anybody ever learn? It's a one-possession game. It's the middle of the third quarter, and both teams have already squandered a timeout. You think New Orleans wouldn't like to have that timeout at the end of the game? It's insane. Take the 5-yard penalty. I mean, these timeouts are oxygen tanks. How do coaches never learn? It absolutely drives me nuts. Then you watch the ability to think while you're playing. I kind of give him a pass because he was thinking, but he thought wrong. Remember the play years ago when Brian Westbrook's running for a touchdown and he laid down at the 5? They were up 1. He goes in and gets a touchdown. Well, wait, the game wouldn't be over. But the other team had no timeouts. He laid down on the 5. The game was over. Brilliant, smart move. Fantasy players went nuts. Chris Carson the other night, they're trying to ice the game. It's first down with 2:07 remaining in the game. He runs around the right edge. He's got a full head of steam. He's gained 6 yards. If he puts his head down and cuts up field, he probably gains 9. He lays down. Well, he lays down, and there was the 2-minute warning. The clock was going to stop. Had he kept running, he'd have got it there. He probably would have gained 9. He may have got the first down, but it would have been 2nd and a foot, and they'd had 2 chances to ice the game. Instead, they didn't get the first down and gave New England the chance to win that football game because Carson was trying to do the right thing, but he misread the situation. Had he kept running, that game was over. It's amazing how one little play impacts so much, and these guys' situationally just don't get a grip on it.
Yeah, it really is. And, that's something that I really watch closely when I watch an NFL game. I want to see the decision making. I want to see the play design. I want to see what these guys are thinking. I was tweeting during the Browns game last week against the Bengals on Thursday night. Kevin Stefanski is moving the pocket. They're doing so many smart things with Baker in this offense, and people are going to dismiss them and say, yeah, but they played the Bengals. The Bengals are terrible. Sure, the Bengals are terrible, but you also have Baker learning this new offensive scheme, and it plays more to his strengths. He's actually a very good thrower on the run. He's not a very good thrower stationary in the pocket. So I like that. I like that they're moving him around. So when I see that the Browns are playing the Washington football team this week, and I know that Washington's secondary isn't very good, but their pass rush is good, I start thinking in my head, I just watched Kevin Stefanski move the pocket around. I just watched Stefanski run, the different plays with Chubb and with Kareem Hunt. I just watched Stefanski do a lot of things that should help neutralize a pass rush. Am I going to lay 7 with Cleveland? I don't know about that yet, but I start looking at the total for that game, and even though the Browns are getting some pieces back in the secondary, I start thinking to myself, they can move the football on Washington. They won't be 3rd and 14, 3rd and 16 like the Eagles were regularly in week 1. So those are things you can pick up while watching, that maybe you don't see in a box score, but you'll see from the coaching tendencies, from the decisions that are made, all those types of things.
And it's so much fun just to be talking about this and breaking these things down. I would throw another thing in on that game. Here's Cleveland laying a touchdown. They were home, played a Thursday night game, extra time to prepare. Washington plays on the West Coast, has to fly all the way home, then start preparing. A big edge for Cleveland just with the intangibles of rest and travel.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And especially, too, you've got that first-year head coach in Stefanski. The extra prep time helps. You don't have, Ron Rivera's obviously been around the block a million times, but he's still a first-year head coach with his team. So there's a lot of things that they're trying to work in here. And even, too, you think about it with Jacksonville here this week on Thursday night against Miami, first-year offensive coordinator in Jay Gruden, but it's working. They're moving the football. They're not moving it in big chunks, but they are moving the football when they get opportunities. They're doing a lot of quick passing, getting their wide receivers out in open space, letting them try to make plays, not putting too much pressure on Gardner Minshew to make all these hero throws. And I think those are important things to take a look at. Cincinnati last week, they just basically abandoned Joe Mixon. They threw the ball 61 times. You think about that for their game against Philadelphia this week. What does that mean for Cincinnati's game plan? It helps to be able to watch as many games as possible. Yeah, you still want to compare, if you make your own numbers, compare them to the market, look at all the stats and the box scores and all these types of things. But I know you're a very observational handicapper. You like to watch as much as you possibly can and then carry those things over. It just speaks to all the different strategies that are available for the NFL.
No, there's no doubt. And in fact, I'm looking at Philly laying 6 here. The NFC East is a dumpster fire. Miracle the Cowboys win that game. I mean, the Atlanta thing is just, boy, if you're a Falcons fan, my heart goes out to you.
And you're a Buffalo fan, and I'm a Cleveland fan, and our hearts go out to Falcons fans.
Yeah, what does that tell you? Exactly. But Philadelphia, they blow the game against Washington, and they give up 8 sacks in the process and then have to face Aaron Donald. Okay, kind of understandable. But if you're Philadelphia, even though you're 0-2 and it's been just horrific, you're sitting there going, honestly, Washington should be the only team in that division that has a win through 2 weeks. I mean, this division is just an atrocity. Boy, Philly better right the ship against Cincinnati or, honestly, just give the division to Dallas right now. And 8 wins might win the division.
Well, before we sign off, as far as this video goes and talk a little bit of the Stanley Cup Finals here, any other games on your radar? I mean, we've got Green Bay, New Orleans in the primetime time slot Sunday. Tampa Bay, looked better, and now Denver, of course. Denver's quarterback situation is to the point where they're talking about signing Blake Bortles, so we'll see how that goes for them. Anything else with the 4:00 or the Sunday nighter here on Sunday?
Your brain works in funny ways, buddy. I don't know what I did. You've seen me. I lose I misplace something or short-term memory. I'm a disaster. I remember phone numbers from when I'm 3, and I remember games and all kinds of, and I'm good. This is totally off the cuff. I'm good. I could be wrong. But didn't Detroit and Arizona play in the opener last year?
Yes.
And it was a tie?
Yes. Yeah, Detroit blew a big lead.
And Detroit had the game in the cookie jar. Okay, I swear to you, I just looked at that and I said, wait a minute. They just played last year. That game was and Detroit last year gave away games. They blew that game as a tie. They blew a game to the Niners and blew a game to the Chiefs. I don't think Detroit's anywhere near as bad. And Lions fans are going, here we go again, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, if Golladay suits up and can play, I still think the Lions are daring. I still think they're a decent football team. And everybody's loving Arizona and feeling their oats. Hey, how about Murray and how about this and how about that? I think Detroit walks in there as a live dog. If Golladay plays, I'm going to say the Lions win the game.
I want to see that injury report for Detroit with their secondary. I want to make sure everybody's good to go there. But I don't think it's a bad approach at all. I don't think it's a bad take whatsoever. And speaking of injury reports, I mean, man, the injury list is just it's extensive this week. And the thing of it is, a lot of guys are already guaranteed to be out because they're out for the year. So a lot of this stuff already baked into the number, baked into the handicap, baked into the initial line move. It's those cluster injuries of guys that are questionable, doubtful, stuff like that you want to take a look at here at the end of the week.
Yep. No, I'm week to week, buddy. The adjustments are just something we have to pay very close attention to. But I think the adjustments are going to continue for another couple of weeks. And then again, as we've alluded to, the market is extremely volatile week to week.
Yeah, most definitely is. Make sure you make sure you subscribe to our videos here on our ATS YouTube page, and make sure you subscribe to the full podcast versions here of ATS.io radio.